Testing 1, 2. Is it on? Are you sure? Because there's no indicator signal that... Oh, there it is. Okay. Hello to the land of the living. If you can hear this, then know you're not dreaming. Your radio really is picking up a broadcast. Before we even start, I just have to say that no, you're not rescued. This isn't a government signal. There is no zombie-free paradise. And the worst, sadly, probably isn't over. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that you're not alone. The world might have gone to hell, but small pockets of humanity have survived, and we're still out here. Can you adjust the gain? I'm getting some pretty bad feedback. All right, there you go. Okay, perfect. The purpose of this broadcast, which we've set to repeat every 6 hours, is to give hope to whoever might hear it, and to let you know that you are absolutely not alone. No matter how bad it's gotten, or no matter how many horrors you've seen, you are not alone. So don't give up. Not for a minute, not for a second. The only thing that separates us from them is hope. All right, for those of you hearing this for the first time, my name is David Kennedy, and like you, I am a survivor. I spent the last year roaming the country trying to figure out exactly what happened to us and why. During that time, I've met hundreds of people with their own stories, personal struggles, and losses. But there are some victories. A few months into my trek, I decided to start interviewing them so that their voices would never truly be lost in the sea of endless moans that now deafen our world. Maybe their tales will inspire you. Maybe they'll make you laugh or cry. Or maybe they'll just remind you that there are other people still out there. People like you. So why am I doing this? What do I get out of it? Well, that's a fair question, and it's one that I intend to answer. Because this is my story as much as it is anyone else's. How could I ask the world to bare its soul to me if I refuse to do the same? As I stated before, my name is David Kennedy, and I am 24 years old. No, David Kennedy isn't some cool way to introduce myself like some sort of suave super spy. My first and middle name are both David. My father was David, and my grandfather was David. And to be fair, my mother named me after both men, never telling either which David came first. Growing up with the two first names was brutal as a kid. It earned me both merciless teasing and the nickname Double D. I initially tried to fight it, but as childhood nicknames do, it stuck. So I eventually just embraced it. Oddly enough, it was probably that name that saved my life. It was because of it that I always kept fit and in shape. You don't want to be a fat kid with a pair of sweaty man boobs and the nickname Double D, you know. So when the outbreak went full swing, I was in good enough shape to survive it. It's like that prophetic movie of old stated, rule number 1, cardio. Before the world officially ended, I was a college student, majoring, as you might have guessed by now, in journalism. Who knows, if the world ever recovers from this, maybe I'll be remembered as the last real reporter. And that's a pretty big if. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's pretty bad out there. So now you know who I am, and that you're not alone. God, I can't stress that enough. You're probably wondering what the hell actually happened. Well, sadly, there is no real official explanation, at least not one that I've ever heard from a credible source. The only thing that we could do was sort of assemble a timeline from old media clips and recordings that were made right before everything went to shit. And I can tell you that, look, I can't say that what we put together is right or even all that accurate, and I can't promise. Let me just tell you that it isn't biased, and that we've made it with the intent to shine as much light into the darkness as humanly possible. I think the world deserves to hear the truth, and that's what we intend to bring you. I think it's safe by now to admit that we are dealing with zombies. Not walkers, roamers, biters, shufflers, or any of the other names that these old television shows would just throw out to avoid saying the Z word, but actual, I can't believe they're real zombies. Being a college student, I find myself naturally gravitating towards conspiracy theories and shadowy plots, so we can't honestly ever say when all of this actually started. Government and media cover-ups have happened in the past, and I have absolutely no doubt that they happened during the initial outbreak. Still, the first real segment that we could find came from a local news channel out of Dallas, Texas, and we think this may be the earliest clue to what actually went down. This is what we have.
With the Dow Jones Industrial Average shattering industry records and closing well over 15,000 today, that number comes from a complicated formula based on 30 stocks that are part of the Dow Jones Average. The higher the number, the higher the value of those stocks, and there's no need to speculate which stocks in particular help boost those numbers today. Am I right, Cindy?
Indeed you are, Ron. Karama Pharmaceuticals, the newly emerging biotech company with roots in Italy, is turning heads and raising brows as it swiftly becomes an international leader of both medical and therapeutic goods right here in the United States. Their spokesperson, Janet Kirkpatrick, has been credited with much of the company's climb, with her claim that they are only a few trails away from actually curing everything from swine flu to the common cold.
Those are some pretty bold statements.
True, but as Karama Pharmaceuticals has filed over 87 patents in the last year alone, the experts think that they might really be onto something.
87 patents, is that a lot?
Well, it sure seems like a lot to me, but whatever they're doing, they must be doing it right because their stock has gone up in value over 500% since hitting the markets a little over 2 years ago.
Makes me wish that I'd gotten in on that. But I will tell you what I did not miss out on last night's game. Did you see it?
I didn't. Believe it or not, I was stuck smack dab in the middle of that massive traffic jam that Bob mentioned earlier. I sat on the Spencer Street Bridge for over 4 hours.
4 hours? Yikes. Well, you missed one heck of a game. Our very own Razors went head-to-head against the Coyotes last night, and it was nothing short of brutal. We'll have a full recap of the game and the heated words that were exchanged between the two coaches that may have them both in hot water. Right after these words from our sponsors.
Hey, it might not sound like much, but that news report gives us the name Karama Pharmaceuticals. If you've never heard of them, they were all over the news right before, well, the news stopped. They were working on some miracle cure that was going to revolutionize the world. The traffic jam she mentioned was later attributed to some homeless drug addict high on bath salts, but is now arguably the first reported surfacing of a zombie attack. Oh, and fun fact, I lost $50 in that game. And to tell you the truth, we almost missed it. There's still a bit of argument with some of the other survivors on whether or not that we can include this as evidence, and there are no official tie-ins to the outbreak or Karama Pharmaceuticals, but the coincidence of the discovery coming from Italy and the mention of the disease becoming the cure was pretty hard to ignore. Again, while we can't prove anything by playing this, we felt that it was potentially too important to leave out.
Welcome back to The Piercing Truth with me, Oliver Pierce. If you're just tuning in, we're here with a very special guest, Dr. Robert Carver, discussing his new and some would say even controversial book, An Island of Death, The History of Poveglia. It's currently enjoying a top spot of the New York Times top 10 list, and I suspect, given its content, it may be there for a while. Dr. Carver, once again, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here, Oliver.
Now, Dr. Carver, as we were discussing before the break, your archaeological expedition came to an abrupt end when the Italian government found, shall we say, there were some irregularities in your paperwork.
That's the reason they gave, yes, but I assure you my papers were in perfect order. You see...
But, no. They shut you down and they confiscated your work, citing, let me see here, failure to report human remains and unapproved excavation methods.
No, that's not true. We had no intention of...
Then what exactly was your purpose on the island, Doctor? If it wasn't to give... Well, if it wasn't grave robbing, as some have accused, I mean, they revoked your dig licenses, surely that has some serious implications.
My purpose is, how do I put this? Poveglia is a modern-age Eden, the likes we've never seen.
I don't recall insane asylums or infectious disease in the Garden of Eden, Doctor, at least not in the version of the Bible that I've read.
Wisely, it is true that the island has been used as a dumping ground of disease and pestilence since the early Napoleonic Wars. What has grown from this rotted fruit is nothing short of miraculous.
How so?
Imagine, if you will, the worst strain of tuberculosis or even the most treatment-resistant form of influenza. While modern medicine has grown by leaps and bounds and these things are no longer the threat that they once were, at one time they were a very real problem and a nightmare to deal with. Whenever an illness, disease, or even plague mutated beyond what could be considered normal, those who were inflicted were sent to Poveglia for study.
But they weren't being studied, were they? In your book, what is it that you call it? Ignorant containment.
These people were sent to hospitals and asylums on the island, not for treatment or medical experimentation, but for something far worse, simple housing. The healthy world wanted nothing to do with them, and the medical world saw them as too dangerous to not be contained and accounted for. So, under Napoleon, what had started as a rudimentary confinement station became a permanent fixture. The ill were gathered and contained in Poveglia out of fear, but it is because of that fear that nature itself began to change.
I don't understand.
When you have that many strains of disease, each mutating or changing in ways that had never before been seen, confined in such tight, uncontrolled quarters, they begin to breed something entirely new altogether. Medical miracles that could not be explained, reversal of disease, sickness, and in some cases, even death. The disease had become the cure.
Yet you claim that there is indeed experimentation upon the afflicted.
Not under Napoleon, quite the contrary. He wanted nothing to do with Poveglia. When the emperor learned of the changes that were being reported upon the island, he ordered it destroyed, but by then the sickness and mutations unlike had escaped the confines of the Church of San Vitale and had spread to undocumented parts of the island.
So the experimentation upon the sick came from
the German military, mostly during the occupation of World War II.
It always comes back to the nasty.
During the Italian surrender to the Germans in World War II, the Germans scouted Poveglia for what were initially militaristic purposes. They were hopeful that the Venetian forts built in the early 1600s could be upgraded and utilized in a modern defensive manner. What they found instead was an island that had a much larger, much different population than previously reported. Those who had survived, along with their now exponentially mutated illnesses, possessed immunities unlike the world had ever seen. The Amenerba, or Special Projects Division of the SS, were very excited at this discovery.
Yes, but you have no evidence or findings to back up these claims.
But I do. I did. My research documented countless cases.
Research that you claim the Italian
My paperwork was never in question before I submitted to the first of my findings. I don't know from where these allegations against my expedition sprang, but everything was in order. I had in my possession actual letters from Napoleon himself condemning the island, using the condemnation of San Vitale as an excuse to destroy what they had found there.
The scientific community, sir, regards you as a crackpot.
Crackpot? I have the support of many of my peers. The community is behind me. They are simply skeptical of my findings, as they should be.
As I cannot provide beyond verbal anecdote any evidence of your claims.
But why would they shut down my studies? They had the evidence. They saw what I was on the verge of bringing to the world.
Dr. Carver, thank you once again for your time. I hope your book, grimly titled An Island of Death, the History of Poveglia, continues to do well. We found it to be very good, although admittedly tough to swallow. After the break, we'll be right back to the cast of British Nanny. This is Tom for your song.
Without the internet or much technology to fall back on, our research into Dr. Carver's claims hit a dead end almost immediately. The only thing that we could find was an old encyclopedia entry on the island of Poveglia that confirmed its use as a plague station, and the orders from Napoleon to destroy the Church of San Vitale. Still, Dr. Carver's insistence of not just a cure being found on the island, but one born from disease. Well, it just hits too close to home for us to ignore. Take it for what you will, but I personally wouldn't discount it. Okay, about 3 weeks after the interview with Dr. Carver aired, ANN began coverage on a Senate hearing in which a senator from New York is accused of taking money from Kurama Pharmaceuticals and refused to explain as to why he was spending so much time in Italy. This is what really cements our suspicion of Kurama's involvement in the outbreak. We cut out most of the official preludes and went directly for the meat of the conversation, which saves you about 4 hours of political droning. Note the mention of DARPA and how the United States government seems to, well, have ties directly to both Italy and Kurama.
You're watching ANN, the American News Network, America's most trusted source for news.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Our top headline of the day continues to focus on the numerous and often bizarre allegations of misconduct that have been brought against Senator Robert Davison of New York. So you may recall, Senator Davison's activities were brought into question during the trials of Joseph Edwards, a former Defense Research employee, now serving a 25-year sentence for his part in what some are now calling the Project CD scandal. We now go live to the Senate hearing still underway.
The committee will be in order. The committee now resumes its hearings on the investigation into the allegations of conflict of occupational interest, obstruction of Congress, and hampering of an investigation by the United States Senate Committee brought against Senator Robert Davison of New York. Senator Davison, am I correct in stating that you have a copy of the list of allegations brought before this committee in front of you now?
That is correct, Madam Chairman.
Senator, if you could, please explain to this committee exactly what your involvement is with the article labeled Project PD.
At this time, I would like to remind the chairwoman, the Madam Chairperson, that I sit on the Senate Committee for Intelligence in an official capacity, and that I am not authorized to release sensitive information to the public at this time.
The chair acknowledges your position, Senator Davison, but it still requests that you answer to the best of your ability or to the degree in which you are allowed to speak on the subject. Now, are you stating for the record that you are unable to comment in any fashion on the article entitled Project PD?
That is correct, Madam Chairman.
Senator, how many times have you been to Italy in the last 3 years?
That information is currently classified under Executive Order 13526, and I am not authorized to release it to the public at this time.
Is it true that you've been to Italy over 24 times in the last 3 years, acting in both official and unofficial capacities as in accordance with your current job title?
Again, that information is currently classified under Executive Order 13526, and I am not authorized to release it to the public at this time.
This committee, if you will look at Article 6 on page 3 of the booklet provided, has no record of your official involvement in any activities or articles as sanctioned by the Senate that would require your presence in Italy. Yet we have copies of several reimbursement requisition forms bearing your signature that prove that you were there on numerous occasions. Is that your signature, Senator?
Madam Chairman, that information is also currently classified under Executive Order 13526, and I am not authorized to
Senator,
release it
where
to
or
the
what
public
is
at this
Sturm
time.
und Drang?
I apologize, Madam Chairman, but that information is currently classified under Executive Order 13526, and I am not authorized to release
Senator
it to the public
Davison, your
at this time.
continued impediment of this hearing is duly noted, much to the disappointment of this committee. Perhaps a simpler question. What is your relationship with Kurama Pharmaceuticals?
Like many here, yourself included, Madam Chairman, I have invested in the company's stocks. I make no secret of this.
Indeed. Yet, unlike many here, you have been named as a member of their advisory board. Am I correct in stating this, Senator?
No, Madam Chairman, you are not correct. I have accepted no official titles or duties with Kurama Pharmaceuticals.
Are you saying that you do not sit on the advisory board for Kurama Pharmaceuticals?
I have accepted no official titles or duties within the company, Madam Chairman.
Senator, do you sit on the advisory board for Kurama Pharmaceuticals in any capacity, official or not?
That information is currently classified under Executive Order 13526, and I am not authorized
Senator
to release it to the
Davison, when was
public
the
at
last
this
time you were in Arlington, Virginia?
I have been present in Arlington several times in the last few years, a number of military memorials, and when I can, I like to take my family to the Bay.
And during these trips, how often did you located there?
I'm sure once or twice, Madam Chairman.
And what was the nature of these visits?
I believe The agency in which the committee notes was a stop on tour.
DARPA is a secure facility, Senator Davison. Are you saying that you were simply visiting?
No, Madam Chairman, I'm saying that I cannot recall the reason for the visit as it was not noteworthy.
And during these non-noteworthy visits, did you ever come in contact with a Mr. Joseph Allen Edwards?
I do not recall.
So this committee is to understand that you have never had previous contact with Mr. Edwards?
I do not recall, Madam Chairman. As I was never introduced to Mr. Edwards by name, I may have inadvertently seen him without association if he were at the facility.
So you never received anything from Mr. Edwards?
That is correct.
And you never used your station with the United States Senate to facilitate an exchange with Mr. Edwards on behalf of Kurama Pharmaceuticals?
This is correct.
Immediately following one of the several visits to the DARPA facility in which this committee has documented evidence of, you were flown from a private airport to an undisclosed location in Venice. What was the purpose of that trip?
That information is currently classified under Executive Order 13526.
Senator Davison, the committee respectfully insists that you answer the question.
Under Executive Order 13526, that information is listed as classified.
Senator, your reliance on this executive order is...
You have been watching the exclusive live coverage from the Senate hearings involving Senator Robert Davison of New York. We will have more coverage of this story as it further develops. When we return, video games are not just for kids anymore. We'll have an exclusive inside look at what goes on behind the scenes at the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3 as it's known to those who attend. That and much more after this.
Those of you who don't remember Joseph Edwards he was a DARPA employee. He dropped a ton of documentation to one of those online anti-government sites before he was taken into custody. He claims to have not only handed over important medical research to Senator Davison, but that Kurama Pharmaceuticals was working closely with the United States government on a military project. Unfortunately, Mr. Edwards was whisked away, never to be seen again. Shortly after the world as we know it ended. Now, I've been trying to wrap my head around how much actual footage of the outbreak must have been lost from news crews or some random guy with a cell phone who never saw it coming. Could you imagine what YouTube would be like if we could still connect to it? I'm still hopeful I can find more, but I did manage to locate this interview from a TV station in Columbus. I couldn't figure out a way to get it off the playback machine, so I just recorded the audio. You would think that with all the soldiers and police officers that we've had in this country, they would have been able to contain something like this.
Have any information, they should contact their local Red Cross. And now we are going live to Don, who is downtown where Grace Mercy West Hospital has been evacuated. Don, what's happening down there?
Thanks, Mary. We're here behind a series of police barricades with a crowd of employees. We're still a little unclear of what spurned the evacuation, and the police I've spoken with are calling it a biological hazard, which could be anything, I suppose. Our best guess is a chemical spill at this point, but I'm actually here with Carrie Ryan, who was one of the many rushed outside with little explanation. Carrie, you work in the hospital, correct?
That's right. I'm the chief nursing officer in oncology.
And can we safely say today was not a normal day of work?
I think we can, Don.
Can you tell us what you saw? Surely something pretty bad must have happened if an evacuation was ordered.
You know, I'm not really sure. I had just started my shift, hadn't even had my coffee yet, and the alarms went off. The other nurses and I assumed it was system testing, but in this day and age, you have to take these things seriously. So we started following protocol and prioritizing patients for evacuation. Then security came running down the hall and told us to leave them. That was my first indication something was seriously wrong. They rushed us out with everyone else. No one has been allowed back in.
How long ago was that?
Probably an hour now.
Have you seen any of your patients come out yet?
No, but they might have been taken out through the freight elevator in the north end.
Carrie, what do you think happened in there?
I've been hearing weird rumors from some of the orderlies. Word is something happened in the morgue, but nothing ever happens there. I'm pretty sure someone worked too long of a shift and started seeing things. It happens with some of the physicians from time to time. This line of work is high stress, you know.
Has anything like this ever happened before?
Evacuations? Outside of a bomb threat every few years, it's pretty unusual. When there is a major emergency, they usually lock us inside the hospital, not out.
Well, Karen, thank you for talking with us.
My pleasure. Don? Don, was that gunfire? Can you tell us what's happening?
Mike, are you getting that? No, over there. Mary, some sort of military force seems to have arrived, and we are hearing sounds of what seem to be gunfire inside the hospital. They aren't wearing standard uniforms, so I can't identify which branch we are seeing. They appear to be in full...
Unit 1. Unit 1, I want these cities back now. Give me a one-click permitted, or I want this AOR sealed. Cobbs, raise the top. Find out where my damn Apaches are. Where the fuck... Hey, you turn that camera off. I want it off now.
Hey, you can't just...
Cut the feed.
And that's when things started to officially go to hell. Stories like this began popping up like dandelions, and over the next 24 hours, everyone was glued to their televisions and computers. It happened so fast, one hospital turned to 6, which turned to 60, which turned to nothing. Conspiracy nuts will tell you that it was the government turning off some magical switch to the internet, or that the news channels were shut down, but the truth was, nobody was reporting. Uploading a video or setting up a feed, it takes time. And when the levee that was holding the outbreak back finally burst, there was no more time. The next few weeks were a chaotic, blind panic, a frantic attempt at survival. Television was forgot. Hell, technology itself was forgotten. We became the animals that we always told ourselves we were above. And in the end, all that really mattered was survival. I've always been amazed by how quickly mankind can adapt to survive, and how quickly we forget that we're actually adapting. If you can stop what you're doing and take a moment to remember how things used to be and how different things are today. I mean, we were so reliant on technology and medicine. We had pills and tests for everything. It almost seems silly, but when was the last time that you worried about your cholesterol? Or too much MSG on your chicken? I can't even remember the last time I had chicken. The reason I bring this up is that while traveling through Illinois, I was chased by a swarm of zombies, and I jacked up my ankle pretty bad making my escape. It was hell to walk on, let alone run. And if it wasn't for blind luck and the kindness of a guy named Charlie, I probably wouldn't be here today. Charlie had been riding cautiously, watching me from a window. But then when he saw that I was struggling, he came. He just ran to me without any hesitation to help. I honestly thought that he was insane when we first met. He had this look about him, unshaven, unkept, wide-searching eyes, but he also was a painkiller and experience. And these days, the smallest act of kindness from a stranger is pretty rare. And it was obvious that he had seen a lot. And like all of us, it had changed him. But you could also see, more feel, really, that he had been an incredibly gifted man at some point.
All right, thank you. Sure, you don't mind if I do this, Charlie? I mean, you've already done so much for me. I feel almost greedy asking for this from you, but it's honestly kind of what I do.
No, it's done. You just go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Okay, could you please state your name and age for the record?
Dr. Charles Roseby, age 51.
What are you doing out here by yourself? I mean, wouldn't you feel safer in the settlement that I saw just outside of Decatur?
You mean Hope? That's what they call that place now. And I make my way there from time to time and check in on folks, help out where I can.
Help out? You were a physician, right? A doctor of some sort. I mean, from the way that you looked at my foot,
Yes, well, you could say that. I was the chief resident of emergency medicine at the University Medical Center in Tulsa.
Sounds like a big job. What did you do there?
Well, have you ever been to the emergency room waiting for help when someone else rushed in ahead of you?
Sure.
Well, it was my job to receive them. No cuts and bruises or belly aches, but the emergencies where time was of the essence and someone's life hung in the immediate balance. I was there to assist with every elevated trauma that you could think of, gunshots, car accidents, severed limbs. Once, I even had to remove a man's genitals. Well, let's just say that's a rather long story.
Wait a minute, if you were in the ER, did you see, did you try to help the people who were infected with this?
I did. Quite a few, actually.
So you actually saw how the virus in its early stages, you saw it, how it works. That's amazing. Could you run through what you saw in a typical case?
Well, there was some variation, but typically we'd see a patient come in with multiple puncture wounds to the extremities, their arms or legs mostly, bite marks, mangled fingers.
Puncture wounds and bites.
We didn't realize it at the time, but yes, these were the beginnings of a larger attack. We were exhibiting symptoms of what we were unofficially calling stage 1.
And what were the symptoms?
Complaints of extreme thirst, high fever, headache, chills. If it weren't for the wounds, I would have thought it was an outbreak of avian influenza.
The bird flu? Well, how did you try to treat it?
Well, we started with a standard battery of antibiotics, Suprax and Spectracef, a handful of others. We were anticipating bacterial infection from the wounds, but we eventually deduced to that the causation itself was a viral.
Did you ever see someone turn?
Yes, and I can honestly say that I'll never forget the first time that I witnessed it. The patient, Sarah Evans, she was 34, and she had entered stage 2. At this point, the patient's body would begin to shut down. There was a decrease in breathing, heart rate, and signs of renal failure. And eventually their heart would stop altogether, and they could not be resuscitated. It's not like you'd see on television. Hospitals actually have a fair chance of bringing people of generally good health back from the brink with defibrillators and proper drug injections. The fact we were now failing 100% of the time, it scared the hell out of us. Miss Evans had been in stage 2 for approximately 3 hours before she flatlined. We did what we could, but after 15 minutes of surgery procedure, I had no choice but to call it. There were a lot of sick people who were still alive that needed our help. We were so overwhelmed. But there wasn't time to properly move her body, so we covered her with the sheet and moved on to the next emergency. A few hours later, I was running by, and out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw the sheet move. I was exhausted, so at first I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me, but as I was standing there, it happened again. It's definite movement.
She had reanimated.
I was both elated and horrified. I thought we had made a horrible mistake, that in our haste had missed a weak pulse, or that the EKG had malfunctioned. I pulled the sheet that she was struggling with from her face and asked her if she knew her name or where she was.
Were you able to communicate with her?
She gurgled a low moan as if she were in pain, a low, almost instinctual function of the adrenal medulla. Before I had a chance to check her retinal responses, she jerked into a sitting position and grabbed me quite forcibly by the throat. Her mouth was agape and she was gnashing her teeth. Given how recent her cardiac arrest had been, I was more than a bit taken aback by the level of necrosis that she was exhibiting.
A person had come back to life and was trying to eat you, and that's what surprised you?
Well, yes. A nearby orderly noticed our struggles, and together we managed to subdue Miss Evans and strap her down. We put her in isolation, but I never had another chance to follow up with her. I had had more time to examine her and treat her. Maybe I could help.
So it's safe to say that stage 3 is reanimation?
Very astute. Medically, unlikely as it sounds, this virus has the undeniable ability to somehow reanimate a very small portion of a clinically dead patient's brain. Because of the limited scope of brain functionality, there is no memory, reasoning, or sense of self-preservation beyond basic mobility. They lack even the most rudimentary problem-solving skills or complex motor functions.
But they still need to eat.
Well, no. While they do possess an almost primal need to eat, I suspect that it is either an unintentional reaction from the resurrection process, or more likely, a way for the virus to propagate itself and spread. They may eat, but they derive no sustenance from what they consume. Because of this, we have no way to accurately estimate the life cycle of the new organism, or zombie, if you will.
So you're saying that they could be here a while?
Oh, as they appear to repel not only natural scavengers, but bacteria and insect populations that normally break down a corpse. I would place a sizable wager on this being a long-term conundrum.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Now, let's take another look at that angle.
After he was certain that I'd be all right, Charlie gave me a small bottle of pills for my pain, and we went our separate ways. I had more interviews to find, and he said that he had taken an oath to help, and that's what he was going to do. I haven't seen him since, but his story never fails to remind us just how tragic all of this really was. So if you hear about a scraggly doctor wandering the countryside and handing out pills like a bearded Pez dispenser, tell him Double D says hello. And thank you. And if you happen to hear that he didn't make it or stumble upon something worse, keep that shit to yourself. I couldn't take it. If you've ever been out there alone, you probably learned that traveling has changed quite a bit since the outbreak. Most of the roads are impassable, and you spend more time ducking the undead or scouting out the living than you do actually chalking up the miles. Well, there's a bunch of people out there putting more miles in one day than most of us could in a week. I call them the Caravan. Because while they didn't have an official name for their group, that's essentially what they were. A group of mobile survivors following this monster big rig slowly down the highway. Equipped with a cattle catcher from an old train and a solid, well, it had solid, albeit mostly bald, tires. The lead truck cleared the roads of cars and zombies with equal ease, while the follow-up vehicles put down anything that was too close for good. Now, I was lucky enough to not only stumble across them and trade a few things, but to ride with them for a few days and get to know them a little bit. Now, the lead driver, the owner of the Monster Express, as he called it, was a surprisingly happy, easygoing guy named Hayshaker, who agreed to an interview as he drove, because, as I learned, the Caravan never stopped for long.
You okay over there?
Yeah, thanks. I just, wow, it's bigger than here than I would have thought.
Oh, this is my baby. Custom sleeper, 191 inches. Hell, I even got a microwave back there.
She's beautiful.
Oh, no, not like she used to be, but hey, I don't have to pay on her anymore, right?
Well, thank you for doing this. I know that you're busy.
Oh, driving slow like this, sleeping most of the time, only wake up for the turns.
Are you ready to get started?
Sure. What do we do?
Okay, just answer any questions that you want to answer.
That it?
That's it.
All right, shoot.
Please state your name and age for the record.
I'm 44, yes. The name's Donald Michael Fredericks Jr., but if you got your ears on him, Hayshaker.
Hayshaker?
Well, technically, I'm Hayshaker Jr. My daddy was Hayshaker. But since he's passing all, I leave the junior part out. He got the name, because back in the day, he used to drive a big old hay wagon, and he made it shake every night he could. Come on back.
So, Hayshaker, where were you when all of this started?
I mean, this zombie stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, funny story, actually, I nearly slipped through it.
You nearly slept through it?
Yep. See, when all of this really started, I was back there.
In your bed?
Yep. And the sleeper had me one of those stomach bugs, not like the sickness folks get now right before they turn. But it was pretty bad. Don't know if it was a cold or just a bad meal, but I had a case of the shit, something fierce. And I said the shit.
Yeah, although I might have to bleep it out when I play it for my church group.
Oh, anyways, I was laid up for like 2 days, stomach cramps and the shit, making a whole bunch. Finally, I just like fell asleep in the bunk and prayed for death. This is a joke right there.
You're fine, go on.
Well, I had to squawk box off because folks get ratchet on, and the last thing you want to hear when you're holding your pooper shut and fighting off cramps is a bunch of idiots hollering at you, so I had no real idea what was going on outside my own truck. And a while later, I'm feeling better, sipping water from the fridge and thinking about getting up when someone starts pounding on my door, making a real racket of it too, and I figured it was just one of them lot lizards, you know, trying to get in, so I got up to chase her off. I don't play with lot lizards. I mean, I ain't no good buddy or nothing. I just don't fiddle with them. Church.
Lot lizards?
No. Anyway, I crawl up into the cab, look down, and it ain't Lizzie, it's this fat fella just stumbling around, and I figured he was drunk and trying to get into the wrong cab, so I jumped down. That's when I saw him.
He was a zombie.
He didn't have no face. I mean, whoop dong, no face. Well, I let out a yell that would curl your hair and jump back, which was stupid. Because that brought all of them running. Before I knew it, I was pretty near surrounded.
What did you do?
Well, I reached out and I kicked old No Face right in the knee. I didn't know about no living dead or zombies back then. It was just a reaction. And luckily, he was a big fella with just one leg, and he went all wobbly and tipped right over. And I jumped back up into the cab, and I just sat there looking out at the truck stop. It was like a sea of people. Except they weren't people no more. They were zombies.
So you were trapped?
Oh, like hell I was. I got me a big old Cummins diesel, and while she didn't have no cattle catcher back then, she was still strong enough to get me back on the road.
So you just...
I drove. That's all I know. That's all I did. I put the hammer down and away I went. It was slow at first, but then ain't people no more. Hell, they didn't even try to get out of the way. I just punched my way out the lot and kept driving. Wasn't fast though. I mean, I think that was the worst part. I wasn't pulling what I'm pulling now. Back then, I had me a wiggle wagon, and every boat felt like I was in a tip.
Wiggle wagon?
Yep. No, I detached it down the roadways. Once I saw how bad everything really was and heard the chatter on the radio, I figured that I didn't need to deliver the load no more. Kinda wish I stuck it out, though. I was hauling a bunch of stock for one of them home improvement stores. Ooh, would have come in handy in hindsight.
So, what about them? The rest of your caravan?
Oh, you mean my big old convoy? Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, every time I'd stop to fuel up or look for something to eat, there'd be some fella in a van or a bunch of folks in a bus, and they'd ask if they could ride along. I couldn't say no. I mean, safety in numbers, right? Besides, the company felt good. Radio had been dead for a while. Yeah, I said, yeah. And they never tell you this, but it gets pretty low. Before I do it, my one or two followers turned into a convoy with me to lead.
So you're the leader then?
Well, not like no boss or nothing. Folks look to me because I know the roads, you know, and I can fix pretty near anything with wheels. I don't make no big decisions. I just drive, and sometimes folks follow.
What do you miss?
From the old days?
Yeah.
Oh, not a lot really. Mostly the same for me. I drive, talk to folks, hell. Big Reg back there keeps the food diner quality. For me, nothing's really changed all that much.
You have to miss something.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, it's kind of stupid.
Try me.
You won't laugh?
I won't laugh.
Okay. Well, we'll read to it. Hey, you said you weren't gonna laugh.
Burritos?
Not the real ones. Reg can make the, still kind of make those. I mean the frozen kind. The kind you get in the truck stop at 2 in the morning when there was no one around but other drivers. The kind you had to microwave forever, and they'd still be frozen. So you'd stand around jawing with the other guys and swapping stories and trading handles. That's what I miss.
Yeah, I miss that too.
Yeah. Hey, we done here? It looks like we got something big up ahead. We might have to stop.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you for this, Hey Shaker.
Yep.
Riding with the caravan for a few days, I got to witness how they operated. There was never any fighting or bickering, and everyone had their role, the thing that made them valuable to the group. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't tempted to stay with them. It was, it was good for my heart to see social functionality again, people getting along, doing a job, and helping each other out. One of the more surprising interviews that came, it was a woman in her mid-20s that everyone called Mama. Now, I thought that it was odd that she'd have such a nickname, especially since there were women that were, older and more matronly than her around, so I asked her about it, and I've regretted it ever since.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. This is tape 17 interview with Krista Phillips, age 26.
Mama. Everyone here calls me Mama.
Why is that?
I watch after the kids.
Just you?
No, there are others, but I'm the one that the kids call Mama. Sophie, a little blonde girl that used to ride with us, started it, and all the other kids just picked it up.
Kind of sweet. Do you like it?
It's a secret.
Well, not really deep according to...
I fucking hate it.
Why?
Because most of these kids have lost their parents. They've lost their real mothers and fathers, and because I'm there taking care of them, they imprint on me, like baby ducks. I'm not their mama, and it kills me every single time that they say it. It's funny, you think that you'd get used to it, and it would hurt less. But I swear to God, it hurts more and more every time.
Then why not have them call you something else?
You know what I was before all of this started?
You know, that's kind of the purpose of these things.
I was a housewife, living the suburban dream. I had a nice house, a successful husband with a good job, and we had just gotten married and were ready to settle down. It was the kind of perfect life that you only read about in magazines or see on sitcoms, and I did it all. Mary Kay, Avon, even those candle wax parties with those little scented tabs that melt but don't actually burn. That was my life, and I loved it.
It sounds like it was lovely.
It really was. We lived in this pretty little house at the end of a cul-de-sac on Pine Haven Road. Pine Haven. It seems silly now, but back then it felt like I was saying Beverly Hills. When the plague or whatever they're calling it really hit, my husband Teddy and I shouldn't have stood a chance. I'm not even sure how we got out of there alive. I remember my neighbor Sarah bouncing up and over the hood of our BMW. Sarah, who bought more Avon than any one woman could use, the same Sarah who still had my good cake pan, dead and trying to make me the same way.
It wasn't your friend anymore. You know that, right?
Still didn't make it right. Teddy and I spent the next few days just trying to survive. During the day, we'd park and hide somewhere, abandoned hotels, the back of a delivery truck, any place we could be quiet and feel safe. At night, we'd drive. Slowly, no headlights, we just drive. Every once in a while, we'd hit something or someone, and we'd just keep going. We weren't sure where we were going, we just knew that someplace had to be safe. Someplace had to be better than this. One morning, right at dawn, we decided to break into this corner drugstore. It had grates on the windows, a barred door, and as far as we could tell, it was empty on the inside.
Was it empty?
Yeah, but it was harder to get into than we thought it would be. Without tools, a locked door stops the living just as well as it stops the dead. But Teddy wouldn't be dissuaded. He was positive that there would be food and supplies in there, so we kept trying to get in. He was using the tire wrench from the car, this cheap little thing that bent way too easily, and we were almost in when a zombie comes staggering around the corner and grabs me right by the back of the head. I thought I was dead. Teddy let out this deep-throated scream and tackled it. He pulled it right off me. Teddy wasn't a huge guy, to be honest. He was a bit softer than most. He was a computer programmer. They're not known for their physical strength. But right then, he was hard to me. They rolled around for a second until Teddy got on top of it, and using the tire iron, he caved in its head, just over and over again until it stopped moving. I'd never seen him like that.
Fear is a powerful motivator.
When he's getting bit. I didn't know it at first, but when Teddy was wrestling with that thing, it bit him. Not bad, not even really a bite. It just pinched him, barely even breaking his skin, but it was enough. We got inside and barred the door behind us, and then we cried. I'm not sure why. It might have been fear, elation at getting away, or just adrenaline. We just sat there, leaning up against the door, holding each other and crying.
Was he infected?
Yeah. I mean, we cleaned the wound with rubbing alcohol and bandaged it good, but about an hour later, the fever set in.
I'm sorry.
Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen someone go from healthy to infected? Have you ever watched as they get sick and die?
Yeah.
Sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When Teddy died, I didn't know what I'd do. I knew that I wouldn't have the strength to keep him from becoming one of those things. I knew that I didn't have it in me to do what the news said we had to do.
So what did you do?
I dragged him outside and closed the door behind me.
Did you change?
I could hear him on the other side of the door, moaning, getting up, shuffling around.
What did you do?
I got drunk, that's what I did. Blind, stinking drunk. The drugstore had a cooler, and although everything was kept warm, I drank until I felt like I was going to throw up. Then I walked to the pharmacy, got a handful of pills from behind the counter, and I ended it.
You tried to kill yourself.
No, not me. I took a handful of those Plan B pills. I guess it could have killed me too, but at that moment I didn't care.
You were pregnant?
3 months. Like I said, I was in suburban heaven. But now that hell was walking the earth, I wasn't going to bring a child into this world. Not alone. Not when it could end up. That's when they found me. The caravan. Bleeding to death from a miscarriage. Stupid, drunk, and barely conscious in a corner drugstore. They cleaned me up and took care of me, and they gave me a reason to keep going. So, now I'm mama to them all, no matter how badly it hurts. Because they deserve a mama. And I deserve to remember what I did.
You did what you thought was...
Look, I'm sorry. I think we're done. I have to get back to the kids.
Of course, look, I just... Thank you. Honestly, thank you for this.
Mama? Always mama.
Thank you, Mama.
I ran into the caravan about 3 months ago. A long line of trucks, cars, vans, and buses. They seemed to exist in a form of modern-day wagon train, always on the move, never standing still. They say that they're looking for a place to safely call home, or at least a place where the dead don't walk the very roads they travel. Out of the 3 people who agreed to be interviewed from that group, Big Reg has to be my favorite. A smile as large as his heart. He's one of the few people that I've seen that seems to have honestly adapted to this hell that we all struggle with.
If you would please state your name and age for the record.
Yeah.
Anytime you're ready.
My name is Reginald Harvey Williams, and I'm 37. Most folks just call me Big Red, though.
Explain, please, how you got that nickname.
On account I'm so small.
So people are they're not going to be able to see this. So could you just
well, folks have always picked on me about my size ever since I was, well, even littler than I am now. Well, I never really let it bother me much. Good things come in small packages is what my mom always said. Size ain't nothing but perception. And I've known men twice my size that are smaller than me. I got one of them big personalities, I guess.
So they call you Big Reg because you're small?
No. Tell you what happened. Back when it all started getting rough, right before everything went right to hell, but you could see that it was going that way fast. I was working as a night cook at this little truck stop right outside Bellefontaine, that's in Ohio. And anyway, it was getting pretty grim out there, and the diner was pretty near empty. And one of the other cooks, a tall, skinny kid named Terry, me and him got on pretty well. He liked to pull a prank on me, like little thing, like put my apron up on the top shelf, or wait until I went into the storeroom to kick out the dough stop. see, the storeroom was where we kept most of the dry goods and bottles of soda and whatnot, and we used to use it as a break room when we cooked. And there was a little table, radio, and someone even brought in one of those little black and white TVs. Well, the only thing was, the storeroom door was big, busted, and didn't open from the inside. So if you was in there and someone else came along and kicked out a little chewed up hunk of wood we used to prop it open, you were pretty much stuck in there until they decided to let you out.
I think I see where this is going.
So it was a slow night, like I said. Things had been getting pretty bad, and we was just hearing about the worst of it, and not knowing what to think. I mean, dead coming back to life, chewing up on people. We didn't know if it was a joke or serious or what, but I promise you this, we was all scared. So anyways, I had to go into the storeroom for something. I don't rightly remember what now, and I guess it ain't important. And Terry, well, he was kind of scared. He noticed that the mood was getting low, and Terry hated that. He'd do anything to make folks laugh. So when I went in, he snuck over, and before I could turn around, he kicks out the little nubbly of wood. Oh man, was I so. I mean, I liked the guy, but things was tense, and I wasn't in a mood to play his little begging game to let me out of the storeroom. So I'm cussing and banging on the door, and I can hear him on the other side just laughing. That made me madder, so I pounded harder. Was just me, Terry, laugh even more. Oh, but then I heard it. Oh, through the door, I heard it. Terry heard it too, because his laughing just stopped.
What happened?
Well, as far as I can tell, big herd of those dead folk came flooding in a diner, and there was moaning and screaming and the sound of breaking glass, and I pounded harder to be let out, but nobody came. Then I heard the old 30-06 we kept in the back go off, and then nothing. It just got real quiet. And I listened at the door for 2 minutes. Not real soft. Called out to Chip.
Answer?
I hope not. Whatever's on the other side of that door wasn't alive no more. It wasn't alone. It clawed and scraped and pounded on the door when I was quiet. I was just quiet. After about an hour, pounding and clawing stopped, but I couldn't hear nothing. Shuffling around, every once in a while, one of them would bump into something, a glass break, a dish of shower. They'll get all worked up again, but I stayed quiet.
How long were you in there?
Well, I don't want you to think that I suck enough. I mean, I had all the food I could eat, and all the water and booze I could drink, and TV and radio for company. But not that they lasted long. Power went out about a week in and never came back on. About 2 weeks in, my eyes so adjusted to the dark, I could almost read labels on the foods.
You sat alone in the dark.
3 weeks, give or take. I woke up one night about 9 p.m. I knew it was night because my watch still worked, and I could see the glowing hand. Well, there was a new sound outside my door. It was getting louder. Someone was trying to get in. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if they were folks, if they figured out how to use the doorknob, or if they were finally chewing their way in. All I knew was I wasn't going down without no fight. I grabbed 2 biggest cast iron pans we had, and I crouched by the door. And when it opened,
Zombies can't open doors.
no, they can't. But hey, you see that big fella over there, the one with all the muscles and those barbed wire tattoo? He can.
The caravan found you.
They were stopping and checking every place they could for supplies. By then, zombies had all cleared out or wandered off, so it's pretty safe. He opened that door, and I jump out screaming like a demon, swinging my pants at his big melon head.
What happened?
Well, I caught him right above the ear with one, right against felt good. But Mikey's a big guy, and he kicked me right in the chest, threw me back in the room, and he locked me back in the damn storeroom. So like I say, I clocked him good, so he goes yelping back to the group. And they're all up in arm, and I guess because it was dark, and he's so big, he just assumed that I was too, so he tell them all that there's this 7-foot-tall giant man back there screaming and throwing pans, me, 7 foot tall. Well, they got all up in arms, and then they come back. They screaming over them and telling me to stand down, and when they opened the door, they don't see no giant man, they seen me, all 5 foot, 120 pound of me, huffing and puffing in the dark, squeezing against the line like they ain't never let Mikey live it down. Ain't that right, Mikey? But the nickname stuck, and I've been riding with a caravan ever since. I figure since I was a good cook, they didn't have no one who knew their way around food, I owed them one. They good people, one and all.
Did you ever see Terry again?
Yeah. A couple days later. I saw him. It wasn't Terry no more. He was with a big group of them. Probably the same group that came that night.
What did you do?
Well, we let him be. You know, I figured, let him be. If it wasn't for him, I'd be right out there beside him, so I let him be.
While not everyone is dealing well with the aftermath of the fall of civilization as we know it, some people, and you're not going to believe this, were ready for the undead. Me, I can't even fathom how you could live a normal life waiting for something like this. While traveling through Chattahoochee National Forest, I stopped for water at a stream, and I noticed a fence about 100 yards from the road. After walking over, I discovered that trust doesn't come easy in this new world.
Hey guys, I don't want any trouble. You can put down the guns. I'm just a traveler. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What? Can I come closer to the fence so that I can hear you better? I'm putting down my things, okay?
You're putting down your weapons? What the hell is the matter with you, boy? I see folks come through here and be wearing your skin like a suit. You believe this, Earl?
Could you tell me your name?
How about you tell me yours, and I don't have Earl put a 5.56 millimeter round through your head.
David. My name is David. Dave. But my friends call me Double D. But it's I'm trying to look really non-threatening, I promise.
Well, you're doing a piss poor job of it, son. Commander Dale Edwards, leader of the 23rd Georgia Militia.
23rd Militia? Is that a military organization?
Is that a camera? Son, where are you from? We're the last remnants of God-fearing patriots in these here United States.
How have you managed to stay here without being overrun?
This your fence seems to be keeping you out.
Fair point, but I'm also not a zombie.
Let's make something real clear here, Double D. Your entire existence at this point is based on my good graces. I got two marksmen in those towers with a clear shot that you'd be more than happy to make a corpse out of you, one that don't stand back up. Clear.
Crystal. And thank you for not shooting me. Can I ask you guys, how were you able to prepare for everything that happened?
Only a damn fool wouldn't have been ready for this. What other signs did you need? Everyone started ranting and raving about the medical company. Curing folks.
Karama Pharmaceuticals?
Yep, that's it. Society has been breaking down for decades. Dependence on cell phones and chemicals in our food. People have been ignoring it, getting lazy. Too much time on the internet. We decided to be ready when it came. We started building and stockpiling supplies. Housing, fresh water, medical supplies, generators. Hell, Earl here has the whole Dukes of Hazzard series on DVD. The good ones too, Blu-ray.
So you're safe here, but aren't you worried that you'll be attacked?
I think anyone getting within 25 meters of my perimeter needs to be worried now. My mama didn't raise me to be rude, but I think you've worn out your welcome. Go on now. Don't let me see you snooping around here again, because if I do, let's just say that our cameras take pictures a whole lot better. The permanent kind. Understood?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Over the last few months, I've seen the best in humanity, and I've seen the worst. I've heard stories that have inspired me and lifted my spirits, and I've witnessed things that will haunt my dreams until my dying day. One of the most heartbreaking encounters I can remember happened by chance. I was traveling just outside of Fort Madison, Iowa, when the sky suddenly opened, drenching me in a torrential downpour. For the second, I forgot about the world around me as I ran for shelter. There was no worry of a zombie attack or fear of other survivors, just a cold, instinctual need to get out of the soaking rain. Forcing my way into what I thought was an abandoned fast food restaurant, I was so happy to get out of the storm that I didn't notice the loaded pistol aimed at my head until its owner cocked back the hammer. It was a girl. I guessed about 16. She ordered me back outside, motioning to the doorway with the gun. It took me a few minutes of persuading and, a few candy bars from my supplies to convince her that I wasn't a threat, and to let me stay at least until the rain passed.
He's just talking to the reporter.
This is stupid.
A deal's a deal.
You better not be lying.
I'm not. 2 more candy bars for your story. That's the deal.
I don't know what to say.
Just say your name and where you're from.
Peace.
Is that short for something? Where are your parents?
Dead.
How long have you been on your own?
Look, I don't want to do this, okay?
Talk to me?
Talk to anyone.
Why?
Because you're all monsters.
What do you mean?
I mean, zombies want to hurt you,
kill you. Sometimes people want the same thing. Safer to just avoid everyone, living or dead. If I had it my way, I wouldn't have to deal with any of you.
Have you had to deal with zombies?
You mean like kill them? When I have to, yeah. Most of the time I just avoid them. Stay low, stay quiet, and if it gets too bad, flat out run.
What about people? Have you ever killed?
I can't even tell the difference anymore. Really, you're all the same. I avoid you, and if you keep coming after me, I make sure you stop. It used to bother me. I mean, back when it first started, I remember the first time I had to stop someone. I cried so hard I threw up.
Stop a person or a zombie?
It doesn't bother me anymore. It used to, but it doesn't. Not anymore.
When is the last time that you spoke with another living person?
A while, I guess. Mostly it happens like this. Like you. Someone will show up in some place where I am, and I either leave or make them leave. You're lucky it's raining really hard, and you look like a wet dog. I'll make you leave too.
Well, thank you for letting me stay and agreeing to do this.
If you're lying about the candy, you're gonna be sorry.
I'm not here. I trust you.
Don't.
Don't what?
Don't trust me. Don't trust anyone.
You don't seem so bad.
I am.
Well, you...
This is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. Can we be done? I want to be done, okay?
Okay.
You just stay on your side, and I'll stay on mine. Please don't make me... Just stay over there, okay?
Don't worry, I will.
Good. You done?
One more question.
What?
How old are you? For the record, it's for the record.
What month is it?
September, I think.
Oh. I'm 12. I'm still 12.
"12 years old and surviving on our own. 12 years old. I'd love to tell you that we traveled together, that I eventually got her to trust me to the point where I learned her name, but the truth is, she was gone before I got up the next morning. I'm not even positive that she stayed through the night. Whatever distrust she had overwhelmed her, and I never saw her again. I'm positive she's still out there, though, that she's still alive, and I just hope that she's finally found someone that isn't a monster. I stumbled across a settlement in Ohio, run by a man named Jack Hodge. While the area itself had been hit hard by the outbreak, a surprisingly large number of people banded together and survived. Most of the town had been recovered and secured, and while it made for an excellent trading post, I found that the stories I pulled from there, oh, they were more valuable than anything I could have bartered for.
Please state your name and age for the record, whenever you're ready.
My name is John Colin Hart, but people call me Jack. I'm 41.
Thanks for doing this, Jack. Most of your group seems to be avoiding me.
Well, don't take it as personal. We had a bit of bad luck with some bandits a few weeks back. People are still nervous. Distrustful.
No badge? I heard a woman call you sheriff earlier. I figured that with that and the way that you carried yourself, you used to be a police officer.
I'm whatever they need me to be. If they feel better thinking I'm the sheriff, then that's what I am. People need someone to look up to.
So you weren't a cop?
Can I be honest with you?
Please.
I'm only doing this because I need someone to know the truth. I figured even if it's just some kid with a tape recorder, it should be on record somewhere.
Well, you realize that I plan on broadcasting this, right? So whatever you say has the potential to be heard by anyone listening.
Well, I will deal with that if and when it ever happens. Do you really think you're going to be able to get a TV or radio station working again? And even if you do, what are the odds that anything you broadcast ever makes it all the way out here? Or for that matter, that we're still even here when and if you do it. I'll take my chances. Besides, I don't hide anymore. That's not me.
Well, when you put it that way.
You asked if I was a cop?
I'm guessing you weren't.
Just the opposite. I was.
criminal for who or what I was before everything changed. Most people blame the past or abuse or make up reasons as to why they were really the victim when the truth is they were just bad. That was me. I was a small-time crook and a big-time drunk, and I took what I wanted and when I wanted it, and if someone got my way, I hurt them.
So what changed?
The world, I guess. I got caught with a stolen car about 2 towns over, a little place called Yellow Springs. The police station was an old bank that they had converted, so the cells were actually right in the vault. They booked me and weren't about to let me go, so I settled in to do a few days in local lockup before I ended up at one of the larger state places. First day was normal enough, I guess. I got my 3 squares, a private cell, and there wasn't much in the way of crime around there. The sheriff was even nice enough to turn the TV in my direction so that I could watch those idiots trying to sing a song on American Idol. Well, late that night, though, everything went nuts. The phone started ringing right off the hook. The sheriff answered about 2 dozen calls in the span of a few minutes, and even from my cell, I could hear gunshots outside.
It was the start of the outbreak.
Yeah. I didn't know that then. I just figured that there was some sort of public event and folks got out of hand, a small fair or something like that. That place felt right for that kind of thing.
Did the sheriff come back?
No, not the first day, not the second. You ever been in a jail cell when there's no one around?
I can't say I have.
Well, I can't explain to you how honestly frightening it is when you're in a cell. You're somebody else's responsibility. They have to watch over you. They got to make sure that you're not getting into trouble. They have to feed you. By the end of the second day, my throat was sore from screaming out for someone, anyone, to come get me. I was hungry, and the only water I had to drink came from, well, get the picture, locked cell.
But the sheriff did come back.
Oh, yeah. He came back all right. About halfway through day 3. I had found my voice again. Desperation had me screaming like a lunatic and rattling the bars like a pissed-off monkey in a cage. Well, I guess my racket was enough to finally draw someone's attention because the sheriff, or rather, what he had become, heard me.
He was infected?
That was my first time seeing one close up. At first, I thought it was a prank. Like one of those hidden camera, scared, straight type of shows. I was mad. I just started screaming at him, swearing. As it became closer, I could tell that it wasn't a joke. Then my screaming went from angry to scared out of my goddamn mind. Here was this thing, bloody, dirty, stinking to high heaven, and it was trying to grab me through the bars. Well, those cells aren't that big, but I had plenty of room to pull back out of its reach.
What did you do?
Man to man?
Man to man.
I pissed my pants. I could blame the fact that I was sobering up or that I had been drinking toilet water for 2 days straight, but the truth of the matter was, I was scared. I never felt that before that moment. True, honest to God, fear. I guess I must have passed out because after a bit I feel something tugging at my shoe.
The zombie.
And it was almost on top of me.
But you were locked in the cell.
The funny thing about prison bars, they're only there to stop the living. But the dead? The sheriff had managed to squeeze himself between the bars, heading off. Whatever force it took, reaching and clawing at me, had pushed his head right up and out, so that his eyes had popped aside like a big fish. He must have crushed his skull into a million pieces, and once his head was in, the rest of him went slowly following.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Those were my words, too. Exactly. I panicked, and I started kicking like the devil himself were after me, and well, whatever that thing had done to his head to get in must have made it all soft, because about 3 good kicks and the heel of my shoe caved in the top of his skull like it was a melon. And then it stopped moving.
I really don't know what to say.
I just sat there for a few minutes, still in my own piss. And the stink of what was oozing out of the creature that had just tried to kill me. The only way that I can describe it is I changed. Right then and there I changed. Like God himself had given me a second chance, and I swore on my all that I wasn't going to waste it. I grabbed the keys off the sheriff's belt and I opened the door to my new life.
And now you're the sheriff.
I'm whatever the town needs me to be. If they take solace in calling me sheriff, then I'm sheriff. If they need a protector, I'm a protector. If they need a friend, I try to be the best that I possibly can be. But the truth is, I'm more like them than anything else. The zombies, I mean.
How so?
Because the man that I was died that day, and when I came back, I wasn't the same. I don't think I ever will be. And what's more, I don't think that's a bad thing.
The tape ran out at this point, and by the time that I had managed to change it, Jack had been called away to settle a dispute. Still, his story is one of my favorites, and whenever I feel that the world has become too hard or too mean, I stop and I listen to it. If a man like that can become a hero in the face of this horror, then I know in my heart that we can come back from anything. As you heard in the beginning of my interviews with the sheriff, I wasn't getting many bites in the way of interviews with the settlement. And admittedly, this is probably my own fault. I was new to the whole asking people to share their most intimate stories with me thing, and my hesitation to approach them might have fueled their hesitation to be approached. And that to the fact that they had been robbed and forced to kill other survivors a few weeks before I showed up. And you can understand, well, why they were less than welcoming of some stupid kid shoving a battered tape recorder into their face. And I was just checking my supplies and getting ready to hit the road when I got my only other interview from the settlement. And boy, am I glad that I stuck around.
Okay, so this is how I've been doing this. Just state your name and your age for the record, and I'll ask you a few questions, and that's it.
That's it?
That's it. You look nervous.
I just... People are going to hate me after this.
Hate you? Why would they hate you?
You want me to just answer? Or do you still want my name and all that?
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's. Okay. Please state your name and age for the record.
Erin McGuire, I'm 19 years old.
What brought you here today, Aaron?
Some people were saying that you were a reporter and that you were collecting stories for the news or something like that.
Something like that. Do you have a story for me? Aaron?
It's just my fault.
Ooh. Hey, are you okay? We can stop. Let me just turn this thing off.
No, keep it going. People have to know what I did.
Okay. What did you do?
All of it, this is my fault.
The town, the bandits?
No, all of it. The zombies, I did this.
I don't think this was you, Aaron. How could one person that's...
I was always a sick kid. I was allergic to everything. Pollen, cats, stuff. I get these weird rashes if I sweat too much. I was allergic to my own sweat. My father wasn't around much, and when he was, he'd try to toughen me up. But I couldn't. I wasn't some nerdy kid who didn't want to play outside. I wanted to more than anything. But I'd get up there in the fresh air, and I'd spend the next 2 weeks in bed covered in snot. My mother tried everything. She took me to doctors and specialists, and when they couldn't help, she tried all that weird shit too. Faith healing and herbs. People who called themselves willow apple tree or something when you smoke around my bed. But nothing worked.
I bet the smoke didn't help, huh?
I grew up on this beach. Right before my 18th birthday, Mom came home early from work, excited, like really excited. First, I thought that we had won the lottery or something.
Did you?
I wish. No, she was waving this paper around and shoving it in my face, saying that everything was going to be better, that I was going to be better.
What was it?
Some drug company was starting trials in our area, and they were looking for people just like me, sick with allergies and colds and stuff. They had a new medicine that they were testing that was supposed to be the cure for everything. Colds, allergies, the works.
Did you sign up?
Yeah, but I didn't get in right away. You had to be 18 to take part in the study, and I was still a few weeks out. But we signed up anyway. A couple months later, they called, and I thought that my mother was going to have a heart attack.
So you went in?
Yeah.
Did you know what they gave you? The name of the drug or the company sponsoring the testing?
Not really. Everything was pretty secretive, and we had to sign a lot of forms before they even talked to us. It was a test group for some company called Karama. They said that we might not even get the medicine and that we could just end up taking sugar pills for a couple of weeks.
Well, that's how they do most testing, actual test groups and control groups.
I wasn't in the control group.
There's no real way to be sure of that.
Oh, I'm sure. The very next day, at home, I was getting something down off the shelf for my mother, and I took a bunch of dust right to the face. Normally, That would have done me in for at least a week. But instead, nothing. I just stood there. No coughing, no wheezing, nothing. The very next day.
That could have been.
So I went outside. I mean, I ran outside. Stuck my face right in the grass and breathed as deep as I could. Nothing. No itching, stuffy nose, just the smell of fresh cut grass. The smell of emotion.
So you were cured.
Yeah. Everything was just gone. Everything. I threw out my inhaler, stopped taking my antihistamines, and started jogging. Me. Jogging.
That sounds amazing, but I don't understand. How are you responsible for all of this?
A couple of weeks later, I was coming back from a jog, and I felt great. I was sweating and puffing, but in a good, healthy way. I grabbed a bottle of water and stood there in the kitchen catching my breath when I noticed something on the TV. Something to do with medical testing and the company that we had signed up with. They were being investigated, and all trials were being stopped. Whatever they were giving me that was making me healthy was making other people sick.
Sick. How?
I don't know. I started looking online, not because I was worried that I'd get sick, but because I didn't want them to take my pills. I was finally healthy. Nothing I found was helpful. It was all redacted or posted in the comments of some conspiracy theory website, but it all said the same thing.
What did it say?
That Karama was making people sick by making them healthy. That we were spreading something horrible. And then just a few days later, all of this started.
And do you think that you're the cause?
It was just me, but yeah. If what they were saying on the internet was even a little bit true, then all of this is my fault.
Aaron, no one knows what really happened. You don't know that some drug trial was the start of all this. You don't even really know that you got the drug. Have you ever heard of the placebo effect?
Yeah.
Then why do you think that you started this?
Because I haven't been sick since. No one has.
I stopped the interview there because Erin was pretty much inconsolable from that point. She started crying harder and apologizing, and the more that she did, the more I actually started to believe her. I'm not sure how much of what she said was true or how much just the guilty imagination of a scared kid, but looking back on it now, knowing what I know, she was right. I haven't been sick since this all started. None of us have. When I first ran into the group of runners, I didn't know what to expect. I'd love to tell you that the world was full of good Samaritans and helpful people, but I've seen enough bandits and scumbags preying on the weak to be that blind. At first appearance, I had assumed that the runners were part of a club or a gang of some sort. They wore leather jackets, gloves, and being comprised of mostly young, tough-looking men. I prepared myself for worse. But what I found instead inspired me and keeps me on the road to this very day.
Damn it. All right. Okay, that's it. So that's it, I think. Could you please state your name and age for the record?
My name? The guys call me Raton. But the ladies call me Romeo.
Raton, that's Spanish, right? Rat.
Man, I ain't no rat. It's Raton, man. You know, like a mouse.
Mouse?
Because I'm small, man, but quick. I'm in and out before you never know I was there. You know what I'm saying? Not like no rat, man. They're all big and clumsy and stupid. I'm fast like a mouse. Shoot like a mouse. Hey, use that, man. If anyone asks about Raton, you tell them that I look like the actor guy. What's his name? You know, the one that married that chica from Tomb Raider?
Brad Pitt?
Yeah, man, him. Anyone asks. I look like Brad Pitt, man. Latino Brad Pitt.
Okay. How old are you?
Old enough to get you whatever you need, S.A. I can. like a new one of those, man. Why are you still using that piece of mierda? How does that thing even work? Go cover and taste.
Yeah, it's been through hell.
Man, talk to my girl, Tech. She'll hook you up. She's good like that, man. Just tell her that ratons that they give you whatever you want.
Yeah, but I don't have anything to trade with her.
Ah, that's right. I got you, man. Can't have you doing what you do with that thing breaking all the time, right? How you gonna provide your service?
My service?
That's what you do, right? You talk to people, get their stories and stuff.
I guess, but I'm not sure that I would call it a service.
Man, you don't even know. Look at you, walking around out there alone. And for what? So you can tell people how it is. Or get stories, or, you know, get them talking, get their mind off all that it is. That's a service, man. You're one of us. Hey, you're a runner, but like a word.
A runner? Is that what you are?
Oh, yeah, man. All of us. We're runners, man. That's what we do. You need something, we run and get it. You need clothes, we get you clothes. You need guns, man, we get you guns. Anything you want. We go in and we get it for you.
Go in?
You know, man, the cities, the big towns and stuff where the zombies are big, man. Nobody goes into the cities no more. It's too dangerous. Shame too, but there's a lot of good stuff still out there, man. Just rotten.
How do people pay you?
Any way they can, man.
And if they can't?
Then they can't.
And then you find the next guy who can.
What? Oh, man, no. It ain't like that. We ain't monsters. You can't pay us, you can't pay us, but you still get what you need, man. Everybody does.
For free?
For free, man. That's what we do. We provide a service. Look, there ain't a lot of people left, you know. I mean, living people is rough out there, man. And if we can help make it a little easier for you, why wouldn't we? Yeah, people pay us when they can, but it ain't about the pay. It's about, you know, being human.
So it's not about the money.
Money? Man, what good is money? Money don't fill your belly. Money don't keep our trucks running so we can go in and get what people need. No, man. It ain't about the money. If people pay us, it's food or fuel or, you know. Sometimes the ladies are especially thankful, you know.
I do guess.
We're rock stars in a new world, man. People see us coming and they flip, man. They lose their goddamn minds because they know when we show up, things are going to get a little bit better, a little smoother.
So the cities, are they as bad as everyone says?
Oh, worse, man, worse. Imagine as many zombies as you can. Imagine as many that can fit into your brain, man. Imagine that. And then times it by like 1,000,000. That's the city.
How do you do it?
Quickly. That's how. We are in and we are out, man. We do not hang around. Bam, we're in. Bam. We toss a couple of babies down the street. Bam, we get what we went in for and we leave. No sticking around, man. We don't got it.
Whoa. Babies?
Man, you should see your face today. Oh, Blanco. Man, you are white. Like white.
I'm not sure I understand.
I don't mean real babies, man. I mean, okay, well, we get up to school, right? Figured it'd be a good place for like books and paper and stuff like that. You'd be surprised how many people want books now that there ain't no TVs or computers or no more. So we get up to school and we find like babies, tons of them. You know, the kind that you used to get in like health class to teach you not to have sex or something.
Jesus, okay, yeah, I'm following you now.
Anyways, trip over there. We call him Trip because he trips over one of these babies and just starts crying loud. We don't need that, man. Not when we're like trying to be all discreet and whatnot and get in and get out. So Trip past, he throws it out the window, and 10 seconds later, 20 seconds tops, there's like 100 zombies down there on this thing, and they're going loco, tearing at it, at each other, cleaned out the whole school.
Because of the doll?
Oh, man, because of the way it cries. I don't know what it is. I ain't no science guy or anything, but there's just something about a baby crying that really works them up, gets them going. It took us a while to figure it out, but once we did, Tech beats them up a bit, made them even louder, and now, when we find a place we want to hit, we just throw a baby a couple of streets away, we wait a minute, go in, and everything is just empty, man.
Amazing.
You want to hear something really messed up?
Yeah.
Okay, like a month ago, we was in this little town, like a settlement, helping out like we do. And they were good people and everything. But you know what they did? They had babies there, man, like real ones. You don't see that a lot anymore. Anyways, these babies, they were quiet. Like, too quiet. Do you know what they did? They cut their throats.
They killed them?
No. They didn't do it to kill them, but to keep them quiet, see? These people, they figured out what we figured out in that school, that zombies go nuts over babies crying. So, they cut the vocal cords so that they couldn't cry. How messed up is that, man? I mean, how are you gonna do that to a baby?
No, I've never heard of that.
Oh, that's not even the most... Oh,
I think I got it. I got it.
hey, man, get out of here with that thing. Go to text. She will hook you up. You tell her I said to hook you up.
Thank you for this, Raton.
No, man, thank you. You keep doing your service. We'll do ours. That's the only way the world's gonna get right again, right?
Right. Son of a...
What I'm about to play for you next wasn't intentionally recorded. I was working with a broken handheld at the time, and I had no clue that it had picked up the conversation. Normally, I would never broadcast an interview without the full permission of the subject, but in this case, I learned from Raton that Tex, the voice that you'll hear in the next piece, was killed a short time after this recording was made. The runners were out scavenging when a small group of bandits attacked the camp. They took everything they could carry and they left no one alive. I wasn't going to initially play this, but now I feel that I have to. It stands as a commentary of the times that we're in, and it serves as a reminder, no matter how depressing or grim, the zombies aren't the only monsters out there. Hey!
Hey,
You Tex?
yeah, who are you?
Dave, Raton said he's coming to you.
You the reporter?
Is that what they're calling me?
Yeah, they're big on nicknames here.
I picked up on that.
What do you need?
I don't suppose that you have any digital recorders or batteries laying around?
Wow, you beat someone to death with this thing?
He serves me well. Be nice.
I don't have anything to show you this tape, but I got a few recorders. Take what you want. As for batteries, I have some, but you should take this with you. Camping charger. You have to wind it forever, but it should keep you from running out of juice. Take these rechargeable too. They'll last longer than the normal ones.
Thank you. You guys really do have everything.
You need it, they get it. That's what they say.
So you're not a runner?
Me? Oh no, I'm just a cat. Personally, I think it's stupid as hell for going into the city for this stuff, but hey, who am I to judge, you know? Everyone needs a purpose, I guess. And if that's what keeps them going, all the power to them.
And your purpose is tech.
Yeah, that's how I got the name. They jump out the hall and start sorting it. If they found any electronics, you know, phones, iPods, that sort of deal, they'd yell out tech, and I'd come and grab it. Pretty soon they would stop calling me Rhonda and just call me tech.
Your son said that you fixed up the baby?
Yeah, you want to see one?
Sure. That's a baby? It looks more like a disco ball.
The zombies don't care what it looks like. It's the crying that hurts them. At first they just throw out the dolls, but they get beaten up too quick. Now, features with a control and a nice round metal cage. Zombie runs up on it, kicks it, and chases it down the street. So you haven't used the actual dolls in forever.
You made this?
Yeah. Back in the day, I worked for an electronics store. I was the kid who was always taking through the carts to see how they worked. I had a PS4 before Sony finished the PS3. Now I make those things. Fix walkie-talkies, ring up lights, anything to keep us out of stoning.
And that's pretty useful.
Now, for how much longer? Eventually all this stuff is going to stop working. When that happens, I'll have to go out there with them. I like the camp. Nothing bad happens here. But out there, they lose guys all the time.
What about zombies?
Here? No way. We'd see them coming. And even if we didn't, we'd just climb up on top of the camper and wait for the other guys to come back.
Well, thank you for all this stuff, Tex. I gotta say that you're a lifesaver, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, no problem. Good luck on your reporting. I hope you figure this whole mess out.
Do you mind if I speak to the old recorder? It has all my stuff that's all about it.
No, keep it. I've got dozens.
Oh, well, thanks again.
Stay safe.
In Nashville, I came across a decked-out luxury camper. Oh, man. There was a guy driving it who was really trying to make the best out of a bad situation. He had been driving from town to town, looting every bank and jewelry store that he came across, and had amassed a hoard of riches large enough to put every pirate from history to shame. To this day, I have never seen that much cash or jewelry in one place.
Thanks again for the ride and agreeing to do this.
So you think this is going to make you famous?
Well, I'm not really looking for fame. I'm just trying to make a record of what happened for future generations.
Not me. I'm going to be rich and famous. Just watch. I mean, I've already got the rich part down right.
There's no denying that. If you could please, just state your name and age for the record.
Oh, you bet. Hello, ladies. Slick Rick Jarvis here. You probably all know me by now, but this is how it all started.
And how old are you, Rick?
True blue and 32.
Right. If you could describe in your own words the vehicle that we're in.
This is just temporary. I couldn't fit everything in the Camaro anymore, so I had to expand. I call it the Bone Bus. What do you think?
Well, it's certainly...
Right. I mean, look at all of this stuff. Jewels, watches, necklaces. I've got it all. Do you know how much money I have back there?
How much?
Enough to drop every pair of Panthers from here to California. That's how much. Over $10 million. Seriously. And that's just the cash. I've got so much money that I had to stop taking anything smaller than a 50 because I ran out of room. You believe that? You know what else I got back there? A bed frame full of $100 bills. That's like $2 million in $100 bills, and I sleep on it. That's my bed, lady.
Wow. Is it comfortable?
You bet your ass it is. $2 million comfortable, though I don't really sleep on it a whole lot. I usually use the cot next to it, but man, I've got me a $2 million bed.
So you've been driving from town to town, robbing banks and jewelry stores.
Whoa. I'm not robbing anything or anyone. Those places were abandoned. I'm not some low-life bandit, man. I'm just picking up what other people left behind.
But you are focusing on banks and jewelry stores.
Well, yeah. What is it that one guy said? Because that's where they keep the money. And let me tell you, there's a lot to be had. See, that's how you know that it got real bad real quick. No looting. When things go bad, people always start looting, stealing, get fired. Some guys running away with a TV, a flood, and they're kicking in the door of the liquor store. This is different. No one really took it. Well, it just ran. Most of these places weren't even locked up. Can you imagine that? All this gold and money and jewelry just sitting there going to waste.
Well, there really isn't a huge need for money right now. No real use for it.
Oh, that's your mistake right there. You're just like everybody else thinking in the now. Old Rick's thinking of the future. You're telling me that the government isn't going to fix this, that the army isn't going to show up, and eventually everything goes back to the way it was. They probably created this whole thing just to thin the herd. Money might not be worth anything now, but when this is all fixed, I'm going to be rich and famous.
So you think that all of this is just temporary?
Probably. I mean, even if it isn't, I know plenty of people still want gold and jewelry, although... move your leg.
Oh, okay.
A minute, I just got to get in the glove box and, there it is. You see this? Here? Take it.
It's a necklace.
A diamond necklace. Look at the price tag. Seriously, look. Wow. $18,000. You're holding $18,000 in your hand right there. And you know what? I met this asshat back in Nashville, real hoarder type. He had all these guns and all this food.
So I tried trading for some. Do you know what he wanted to give me for this mug? A sandwich. A goddamn sandwich. $18,000 of gold and jewels, and this guy thinks I'm going to trade for a PBJ? I mean, where the hell are people's priorities, man?
Do you want this back in the glove box?
No. You know what? You hold on to it. Call it a gift. I got 100 of them. This way you have something to show people once it's all over, you know? So that they believe in you.
Thank you.
No problem, man. No problem at all. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have any food in that bag, would you?
I rode with Rick for a few more hours, but the remainder of the conversation turned to sex. And all of the things that he was going to do when this world was fixed. I traded him the last of my protein bars for a real gold Rolex. Not because I wanted it, but because I felt kind of bad for the guy. Ironically enough, I ended up trading it for a sandwich a couple of days later. And to be honest, it was absolutely worth it. So if you're still listening, congratulations. You now know as much about all of this as I did. And like I said in the beginning, I've tried my best to share the facts as I found them and to leave out any bias or blame, because none of that matters anymore. In fact, the only thing that matters is that we survive, and that we continue to do so. These weren't paid actors or well-crafted characters who trying to influence any social, political viewpoints that no longer exist. They're real people who somehow beat the odds. They're me and they're you. They're what's left of this world when the dust settles and all of these experts who are supposed to have made it didn't. Because in the end, survival comes down to only two things: natural instinct and blind, stupid, often unbelievable luck. There are no other factors, so if you've lost someone, mourn them. Hold on to their memory with all of your heart and remember them with every single breath, every single breath. But let go of any guilt. Let it go right now. It will only weigh you down, and eventually it will bring the same tragic fate. Accept that there was nothing that you could have done, and that there wasn't a goddamn thing that you can do to save anyone out there except yourself. Everyone has a plan until the horror starts. You know how many zombies I've seen wearing fully stocked backpacks? How many had weapons at their feet or still holstered around their waist? I've even come across one poor bastard moaning through a suit of medieval armor. He was just laying on his back, rocking back and forth like some sort of giant undead turtle. You're only here because you made a saving throw that most of the world failed to make. And if you allow yourself to obsess over the ghosts of your own guilt, it will pull you screaming into the grave. Now that being said, this message will be set to repeat every 6 hours, so if this is your first time hearing it, or more likely our first time attempting to share it, we encourage you to check back in with us just once in a while. We're hoping to occasionally update this broadcast with any new information that we can find, or maybe even with a few more tales of survival and hope. If this isn't your first time, we thank you for listening to us again, and we understand that sometimes just hearing another human's voice when things are this bad makes you have it. If you check back and there is only silence, if we are gone, either from this location or this world, you need to remember you are not alone. You found me, if only briefly, and you will find others, no matter how dark, bleak, or lonely it gets out there. You have to remember and take solace in that one simple fact. You are not alone. So with that in mind, goodbye and good luck. I know that you'll make it. This is Double D signing off. Good night.